Well, a pleasant good evening, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the PR Man and the Coach talking ball on the BallFather podcast presented by Sportskeeda. I'm Reggie Roberts, longtime NFL communications executive, former NFL writer, and I'm joined by the wizard, the sharpshooting, super cool, handsome Walt Williams. What's up, Big Walt?
Hey, what's going on, Reg?
Listen, I know you just thrilled with, we got a lot of NBA coverage to get to, but we're gonna get to your Kings here in a minute. But I was just teasing you earlier offline. I know you got to be thrilled since seriously they ain't made the playoffs since Henry Ford invented the Model T car in 1908, and I know you thrilled with that.
Oh yeah, man. Hey, there's some great fans there. So it's great fan support. I love the city. Like I said, I still keep in touch with a couple of people there. So it's just so much fun. That's a good team to watch, man. They're an exciting team to watch.
But they are an exciting team. We'll dive into it a little bit later. But I wanted to begin tonight talking a little bit about a guy who looks like he's finally going to get his due. I mean, Doc Rivers, who coaches the Sixers. So obviously one of the most respected, was a great player, really good point guard, played in Atlanta, played in the league for a long time, and has established himself as one of the top coaches in the NBA for years. Well-respected, players love him, players love playing for him. I know you have nothing but warm things to say about him. He kind of stepped out there the other day after Joel Embiid had a tremendous game, scored half of Philadelphia's points, and basically declared the MVP race over with the other night, based on his performance after they beat the Celtics. But during that game, Embiid had 52 points. He had one of your games, dog. He was 20 of 25 from the field.
Right, yeah.
13 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks. And the quote was, "The man just scored half our points in an NBA game. I know I'm biased, but as far as I'm concerned, the MVP race is over." What's your thoughts on that, Big Walt?
Hey, I might be biased too then, because for me, I think that when he was on that rampage of all those 30-point games in a row, like 11 or 12 of them or so, I mean, it was just unbelievable every night to see him dominate like that. So I agree with Doc. I mean, you look at the last 8 games they've played, the Warriors, Suns, Nuggets, Mavs, Raptors, Bucks, Celtics, and then the Heat. I mean, 6 of those 8 teams are legitimate, contenders.
Yeah,
So they are in a tough stretch right now when Embiid is putting in his work. I mean, dropping 52 on the Celtics, that's unbelievable because of how solid the Celtics are on the defensive end, not only individually but as a team. They help each other well, and they normally take away teams' dominant players by double teaming them and rotating. The rotations are solid, and so man, it was impressive to see that work that Embiid put in. And so once again, I agree. I think he's the MVP hands down.
It's interesting. There's only 2 games left, and we'll get to the play-in tournament. Play-in tournament starts April 11th next Tuesday night. We'll kind of go over that a little bit too. But Embiid's had one of those years. He's had one of those generational years where it's all come together. He's the best player on his team. He's the most dominant player on his team. As we talked, on numerous other podcasts, he's a dominant player. He changes the landscape of the game and the paint, dominates the paint, and he can shoot the 3. I mean, there's a lot of things he can do. He's a matchup disaster on offense. He's 7 feet tall. He does a lot of things that he can do. And I really do think for the first time in his career, I mean, he's been close. He's been close, no cigar with the MVP. I think, he ought to, he's got to be really thrilled with the year that he's put in and the position he's put his team in.
Absolutely. I think 2 years ago, he was on that path to get that MVP, but, he just was hurt a lot. He didn't play in enough games, and that's what sealed his fate then. It wasn't the numbers. It wasn't his performances. It was just that he was not healthy enough. And so, I'm glad to see him, get his due. It hasn't happened yet, but you got to believe that it's his. It's his for the taking. There's only 2 games left. He's proven it. I think Giannis is a very close second, but to me, it's Embiid. Embiid has it. He's just been so dominant. He's been carrying the team. Harden has been solid as well, but Embiid has been the man out there, and he has them in third place right now, and he's been solid and consistent all season.
It'll be interesting. It'll be worth watching. I mean, you got in the East, you've got 4 teams that have 50 wins. The Bucks have the best record in the NBA at 58-22, followed by the Celtics who are 55-25, followed by 76ers who are 52-27, and Cleveland comes in fourth place at 50-30. And over in the West, you got the Nuggets are 52-27, and Memphis, who missed their floor general and their top guy for reasons that we've discussed, are 50-30. So these playoffs are shaping up to be really, really good. But I tell you what, you got a lot of teams. The Lakers are playing good. I think Milwaukee's pretty much what they've done since they've established home field advantage. We'll get to that a little bit later. They're going to be a team to contend with too. So we'll keep watching it and check it. I'm really interested to see who gets in with that play-in turn. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you know what, Reg? You make a great point. You say those teams on the West Side, right? Guess what, man? You didn't mention the Warriors or the Suns. The Warriors getting Wiggins back, they're starting to get healthy and it's starting to look like their old selves. The Suns getting KD back. I saw a stat that said KD's last 21 games, he has been 20-1 that he's played in. I mean, that's just ridiculous numbers, And so I think that, and then the Lakers, these teams are getting healthy late in the season. I think those 3 teams are just as, dangerous as any team that you can think of in the West. So the top teams to me in the West, they were banged up a lot all season, and then they get healthy at the end. So the order doesn't really tell how good the West is, but I think the East is a bit ahead of them. I think the team that gets to the championship from the East side, I think they're going to have a bit more of a battle to get there.
Well, playing in the league as long as you did, it is a game of attrition from the perspective that it doesn't really matter. It's the team that's playing the best and the team that's the most healthy, from a starter perspective.
Yeah, you want to be going into the playoffs in a rhythm. That rhythm is real. The defense is so good that you have to be in a rhythm offensively. You have to be in sync defensively. Everybody moving as one. When you're talking about playoffs, the margin of error is so much smaller. So every possession becomes that much more important. So that you can't make as many mistakes. So everybody has to be in unison. And so it's about that rhythm going into the playoffs, but absolutely being healthy. And I think that from that standpoint, I think the Lakers and the Suns, those teams are certainly most dangerous with LeBron and AD being healthy and KD being healthy down the stretch.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit to go back to we talked about your old team at the beginning. The Kings, who are third in the West right now at 48-32. They got a chance to get to 50 wins because they win their next 2. Obviously, that'd be good for them. So, after a 17-year drought, which is the longest drought in NBA history, the Kings officially clinched the playoff berth with their 120-80 win over the Portland Trailblazers on Wednesday night. Third best record in the West. Here's just something I looked up earlier. The Kings haven't reached the NBA Finals since they were called the Royals, and they played in Rochester, New York. That was 71 years ago.
The Royals, man.
The Royals. Rochester Royals. Then they moved to Cincinnati for 15 years, changed their name to the Kings, and then they split time between Kansas City and Omaha for 3 seasons until they moved to Kansas City for 10 years before relocating to Sacramento in 1985. You got there in 1988?
No, 1992.
Okay, I'm dating. I'm sorry.
We still had the powder blue or whatever jerseys though.
Yeah.
Just before we switched over to the black and purple.
I know you like that, the black. I know you were right. Yeah.
Did I? But I can't say enough about the fans there. The Kings are the only show in town, so the fan support is just unbelievable. I mean, they used to be in there with the cowbells and everything. It was just off the chain in there. So it was a great environment to play in front of. The fans absolutely love the Kings. You look at this Kings team. I think Mike Brown's done a great job coaching them. You can see the influence of coaching in the Warriors program. The influence on this Kings team, the way they move the ball offensively. You talking about Fox averaging 25, Sabonis 19 and 12 and 7 assists. Murray, the young boy, 12 points a game. Herder averaging 15, Barnes 15, Monk off the bench 13 and a half. So I mean, it's just they have about 6 guys averaging double figures. So that means that they're moving the ball and they're getting great shots. They lead the league in shooting percentage. I think it's close to 50%, 49.5%. So it's just unbelievable. Lead the league in scoring with 121 points, third in assists. So they are absolutely terrific on the offensive end, and they're a solid defensive team. But that's where you can take advantage of them on that offensive end. You mentioned that they were in third place, man. They were number one for a good substantial amount of time. So they've had a little stumbling block as of late, but this team has been solid all season. This is not a fluke. They're not coming on late in the season, what have you. They have been consistent all season.
You know what? I'm really excited. Like just you mentioned, the lifeblood of this game, obviously it's the players and the coaches, but the lifeblood of this game is the fans. I mean, if there's no fans watching the game, it's 5 guys playing on 5 guys, and they might as well be at the park playing. Seriously. There's no TV money. There's no revenue for the players. I mean, you is expensive, Walt. I mean, people have to pay you your bread. I mean, we get it. Because the fans are the lifeblood of the game. Yeah. And for the first time in 17 years, there'll be playoff basketball in Sacramento. Kudos to the coach. Kudos to Mike Brown. Been knocked around a little bit. Kind of had to go sit on the assistant's chair for a bit, but he's come back, revived himself, and you know what? Good for him. And you know what? They're not going to go quietly in the night. They can play a little bit. Absolutely,
man. And they have a dominant player in De'Aaron Fox as well. So they play well as a team together, and they have a guy who can take over in integral moments and important moments in the game.
I'm looking forward to watching it too. I think they're my dark horse team as we go into the playoffs, and I'll be looking forward to watching them. We're going to stay on the West Coast here and talk a little bit as you're on with the PR man and the coach, talking ball on the BallFather podcast presented by Sportskeeda. It's been one of those really weird up and down years for the Lakers. They were on a 4-game, 8-day road trip where Anthony Davis caught fire. He was playing really, really well. He got hot. LeBron's kind of playing his way back into shape. They ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw last night when they were coming back they got delayed. I think I read they got delayed a day. Got snowed in Minnesota and had to stay a day and all that. You know how that travel grind. Walt, you did that travel grind late in the year, how hard it is. And then they played a back-to-back and they lost to the Clippers. Tell me this. Give me your take on on AD and LeBron coming back. And we mentioned earlier, LeBron's still kind of hurt. AD's kind of coming off an injury. They're both kind of trying to get themselves back into it. But the interesting part of it, the Lakers are now 7th. They're now 7th with home games left against Phoenix on Friday and one on Utah on Sunday. I mean, tell me what you think. The Lakers probably could get the 6th seed, but they're a team to be reckoned with. As long as you got LeBron, as long as you got AD, you got a chance.
Absolutely. So right now they're in the 7th spot. They tied with the Pelicans. So who knows what happens there. But when you talk, they're 7-3 in their last 10 games. So to me, it's a direct result of AD being dominant. More importantly, being healthy. Whenever he's there, he dominates. But it's just about, are you there for the games? And so lately he has been, and he's picked up where he's left off at. In the last 10 games, about 27.5 points, 11.5 rebounds. LeBron has been back for the last, 5 or 6 games. He's averaged 25 points in those games. So these guys are coming back. They've been banged up kind of late in the season, and now they're coming back healthy after being rested. and right at the best of time, they've hit a nice streak. They guaranteed themselves at least in the play-in game. So they are in the playoffs. To me, that is a very dangerous thing with those two guys being healthy, and you're talking about rested. And then also you look at the others, how they've been playing. Russell, Reeves, Schroeder, Walker. Those guys have been scoring 20s, getting 20s, in games. When LeBron wasn't there, you saw Reeves, Russell, Schroeder, those guys dropping 20 around AD. So this is a dangerous team. They're solid on the defensive end when AD is there as well. So he impacts the game on both ends of the floor. He's a solid rebounder. So he ends defensive possessions consistently. And you think about it, look at his last 5 games. 38, 40, 21, and 17. And then LeBron, 25, 18, 18, 37, and 33. So those guys are hitting their stride, man. They're dominating, and the pieces around them are filling in and making shots as well.
That's the great thing about this game, especially this time of year. You want to be playing your best basketball when the playoffs start. I mean, you can't win the NBA championship in September when the season starts. You can't win it then. It's a game of attrition. It's a long schedule. It's 41 games at home, 41 games on the road. It's an 82-game schedule. Plus, if you're a team that's kind of been banged up and you're on the back end of the playoff chase, you may have to go to the play-in tournament to get in, which makes the season even longer. So, it's really interesting. You got a lot of teams when you look at this. When you look at the standings, team we haven't really talked much about are the Knicks. The Knicks are playing okay. Phoenix is still dangerous. The Clippers are playing. Golden State, if they can find a way to start playing all their games at home, they're gonna be all right because they believable at home. But I don't know. It's almost like they scared on the road. I mean, when have you seen a Golden State Warriors team with the firepower that they have, with Steph and I never get and Clay and Draymond and the other guy that's playing real good from the guard,
Jordan Poole.
Yeah, him. And then you coached by Steve Kerr, and we ain't bust double figures on the road. What the hell is going on?
Yeah, man, they've been struggling on the road defensively. They've struggled to be consistent, and then offensively, they haven't shot the ball. They haven't shot the ball well on the road. They haven't been moving the ball like Golden State a lot, like offense and creating great opportunities for themselves. They're not the type of team that break you down and then create. It's their movement, the offense, and Draymond, the way he can read and pass the ball, that gets it going for them. And they don't do that. They haven't been doing that consistently on the road. But I'll tell you what, the second half of that Pelicans game a few games ago, Pelicans was really handing it to them in that first half. I think they were about 17, 18 points. And then the Warriors in that second half, they looked more like the Warriors championship caliber team. The way they were moving the ball, creating open shots, passing the ball. I think that B.I., he was on a fast break and Draymond Green ran into him and was physical. I think that's a bunch of hoopla. That doesn't mean anything to players in a game. I think that was overblown. Everybody talking about, oh yeah, he turned the momentum around. I don't agree with that. What turned the momentum around is him passing the ball to dudes that can get busy out there, and they were making shots. And so that other crap doesn't mean anything, man. And so I think that the Warriors, they're starting to settle in offensively, and then you getting guys like Wiggins back. He's going to be a big piece for him if he can come back and hit his stride. But the Warriors are to me, they just haven't been consistent on the defensive end, and I don't know if you just turn that on when it's playoff time, and so.
Good point.
Yeah, to me, I think they're a dangerous team, of course, when you have all of that scoring power, but I don't see them getting past, second round.
Well, before we get to the Warriors, I did a little research about you earlier today. People who in the know know you. People in the know. I did a little research. I'm a former journalist, so I did a little research about it again. Somebody told me that you like playing on the road when you was playing.
I did, man.
Somebody said Walt used to get in his bag on the road. What was? Walt used to get in his bag. So I just thought I'd let you elaborate on that a little bit.
So for me, I don't know what it was. It was even back when I played in high school, I always felt this way. I loved people cheering against me or coming at me, and then I do something out there and then you have to shut up. I love that more than people when I do something good and the people cheering for me. You know, I mean, that was a great feeling to have people cheering for me, but it always made me feel a lot better when I shut someone up. So I love playing on the road for that reason. You know, I just felt like it was more of a, because all players don't like that, you know, so right. I felt like, you know, you carried the team more, you know, because people shied away on the road a little bit sometimes.
That's interesting.
And out more that way is.
That's interesting because, you know, a lot of guys, you know, in the NFL, a lot of the guys that I deal with talked about, you know, they like playing at home and you know, the road is just, you know, they know that we have to play on the road because that's just kind of how it's set up. But you know, they prefer playing home. But like I said, the crack research I did today, they said, Walt used to break it.
Yes, let me tell you something. So people talk about, oh yeah, the comforts of sleeping in your own bed. Man, night before the games, I couldn't sleep anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, okay.
I was ready to go, man. Day of games, man, it was the worst ever because you playing that night, and I just could not wait to play this game and just sitting around waiting for that game. It was just the worst. It was the worst.
Yeah. You know, just to talk a little bit about Wiggins, you know, I just saw something a little bit earlier today about how Wiggins, you know, he hadn't played since February 16th, and obviously he was away from the team for a personal matter. You know, someone was telling me, you know, the other day about, you know, what I said, you know, if it's got to do something with his family, it really doesn't matter because, you know, that your family and your life sort of trumps everything on the basketball. And Wiggins talking about his condition isn't terrible, but it's obviously a different kind of conditioning at the NBA level. You know, you got to get out there. So according to the story, he's been scrimmaging a little bit with the young players. He's been doing a little 5-on-5, but you know, to get back in NBA shape, it may take him a little bit. But I tell you what, the Warriors are way better with him on the court than they are without him. They need him.
Absolutely, he does the dirty work, man. Physical around the basket, scoring off the dribble, the tough to the bully game to the rack, rebounding, getting offensive putbacks. I mean, he was instrumental in their last playoff run to win the championship last season. He was unbelievable with that. So that dude is absolutely an integral piece to the puzzle, especially when you talk about a guy like Draymond who doesn't score as much. So sometimes he doesn't have an impact on the game, and so when he's out, who takes over that role and getting those things done? And Wiggins did a good job in the playoffs of doing that, but also being able to score the basketball. So he's a big piece to the puzzle. He allows that. He brings that physicality, the offensive physicality to the team, and being able to score. So they definitely need him. It's about, can he catch that stride? You mentioned it. It's this tough. This game is about rhythm. The defense is so good. It's about the rhythm, being in shape out here, and so it's going to take a little bit of time. So it's going to be that's going to be the question. Can he get back to the performance where he was last year? Somewhat, at least some remnants of it in the last playoffs.
It's interesting. Coach Kerr completely agrees with you. He says, and I quote here, "It would help us and help him if we could get him back. Because if you try to avoid the play-in, I think you end up with about 6 days off, which is obviously at this time of the year really good." Yeah. And that's the time, thinking back to last year, we had some really good practices. We were able to install some things that we needed to install, game planning-wise, knowing our opponent, add a few wrinkles here and there, and get a couple of good scrimmages in. And if we can get Wiggins to take part in that, which he would be able to do, that's a really, really good kind of ramp up for him, not only physically but mentally too, getting back in the mix. You know, that to me says he feels like he's going to be able to get him back. You know, and it's not that, you know, not that Golden State needs any extra motivation in Africa. 2 years ago, when the Warriors finished 8th in the West and they lost 2 games, missing the playoffs, despite, you know, 50 in the last 20 regular season games. You know, so that sounds like he feels like he's going to get him back, and that's going to be a good thing for Golden State.
Absolutely. I know that Steve Kerr misses a dude like him. You have the shooters running off screens and things like that. But in terms of getting that ball, creating off the dribble, athleticism, crashing to the offensive glass, giving you extra opportunities, that's the piece that he brings to the table for them.
You finishing up with the PR man and the coach talking ball on the BallFather podcast presented by Sportskeeda. I want to just tell you something else, and this is something that I've been thinking about, I kind of just want to get your thoughts as we finish up here. I think the best team in the NBA, top to bottom, at the beginning of the season, especially for most of the season, I thought it might have been Boston. But the other night I watched Milwaukee play.
Yeah.
I mean, they got that 7'1" freak that's out there playing. Okay. He is ridiculous. Okay, won the MVP in 2018, 2016, 2018, whatever. He's won it twice. Okay. Yeah. So he's ridiculous. Then you got what's the guy's name? Drew Holiday. They got Drew Holiday, who's also a problem. Really, really good player, can score, shoot off the dribble, get really good. But the guy to me that makes them go, to me is Chris Middleton. Yeah. And had they had Chris Middleton healthy a couple of years ago, I think they'd have won it then.
Oh, absolutely. He is imagine this, Chris Middleton being the X factor for you. I mean, that must be an amazing team, And so, listen, I remember about maybe 3 years, maybe 4 years ago, my middle son, Kamari, sending me a videotape of Drew Holiday. Now, I always liked Drew Holiday. I thought he was a baller or whatever, but he was showing me some highlights, and this dude, and I was like, oh my God, I did not know Drew Holiday was killing fools like that. And now you can see, because he's on that stage now, Milwaukee has been dominating, and you see him. I mean, I saw a game when he dropped 50 on dudes. I mean, this dude is unbelievable. Off the dribble, spot ups, get to the rack. I mean, he's unbelievable. So he's a guy, and then he's a defensive stopper. I mean, that is just crazy. He could guard 1, 2, and 3 because he's a taller size guy. So, you add that in Lopez, Crowder, Allen, Carter, Dragic. I mean, this team is deep. They deep, and the Bucks they can score, but most importantly they can defend. They're one of the top defensive teams in the league. They are the best rebounding team in the league, so they finish off possessions. They have 5 or 6 guys that average double figures, so they really feed off of Giannis when you're double teaming him and showing him a lot of attention. The other guys have shown that they can be consistent and hit shots. So this team is dangerous. The last 10 games, they're the hottest team right now, 8-2 in the last 10 games. So, I mean, when I watch them play nowadays, I just can't imagine somebody beating them 4 times.
I mean, you think, look at it, 58-22, best record in the league. Clinch the number 1 overall seed in the playoffs. And something, Coach Budenholzer said the other day, it's credit to the players. Players really stepped up. They've embraced the challenge. Night in, night out in this league is hard. He's right. Night in and night out, because anybody can beat you. It's a tough league. Because there's great opposition, and we want to be our best. To have best record is something that matters. It's very important to us. And they, but here's a kind of a neat stat. Started season 9-0, had a little bit of a slump, and then from January 23rd to March 1st, they won 16 in a row to tie the 3rd longest winning streak in franchise history. And since that date, they're ragged at 29-5. Okay, let's just examine that for a second. Okay, you win. So January. So basically, for like a month and a half, you lost 1 time. No. But let me check that. From basically end of January to March 1st, you played 16 games and you didn't lose. You were 16-0. Tied for the 3rd longest winning streak in franchise, and then since then, you just kind of loped along at 29-5. Just kind of left along 29-5. It's in the really good part, they're healthy. Giannis is healthy. Middleton's healthy. Drew Holiday's healthy. It's just interesting. No one on the team has played in every game, while Middleton, 47 games, Giannis, 17, Holiday, 13, have all missed extensive time. That's interesting. The big three have only played together for 24 games, but the quote is, we got a lot of guys that can play, a lot of guys can step up on the occasion. Wesley Matthews said, it's an 82-game season. It's a grind. Unfortunately, this game has injuries. Guys have been up and in and out of the lineup. I don't know how many rotations or how many starting lines we've had, but we've had a few. That helps you.
Yes.
When you got guys can fill in and jump in a row. I mean, you're not gonna start with the same five you run out there game one on game 80. It's not gonna be like that, Walt, right? It ain't gonna be like that.
Absolutely not. And I think that's why they're playing so well right now, because you have guys missing so much time, and others have to step up. And they've been consistent and winning throughout the season because others have been consistent. You think back to the year that the Warriors were in a play-in game, right? That season, the reason why they were in the play-in game is because Steph and Clay, they was just hurt so much. And then the following year, they won the championship. And the reason why they did is, in my opinion, is because the others gained so much experience the year before that now when we have Steph and Clay and these guys, now I have so much confidence. And now when we counted on in the playoffs to make big plays, they were already ready for that from the previous season. They were counted on for majority of the season to step up. So they were ready for it. And I think that's what's going on right now with the Bucks. These guys are ready for playing a major role and making big plays. To me, I think the Bucks is the team to beat. The only team I see that, to me, if they meet in the championship, that would be would be the Phoenix Suns, because I just think that the KD and Booker, that's just and CP3, that's an unbelievable trio, and I think that they can match the Milwaukee Bucks. But then when you go to the others, I think Milwaukee's depth is there, but we'll see if would that be a factor.
We're going to just set this up, this play-in tournament. The play-in tournament begins next Tuesday, April 11th. And so just to sort of get it set up for fans who may not know what it is, the NBA play-in tournament determines the last two seeds in the playoffs for each conference. So the top six finishers in each conference automatically qualify for the NBA playoffs. Teams that finish number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10 in each conference will participate in the play-in tournament to make the playoffs. So right now in the East, as we mentioned, you got the Bucks number 1, the Celtics number 2, 76ers are number 3, the Cavaliers are number 4, the Knicks are number 5, and the Nets are 44 and 36, and they're number 6. Switching over to the West, Denver is first with 52 and 27, best record in the West, obviously. Memphis is 50 and 30 at number 2. Sacramento, Walt Williams' Sacramento Kings are third, 48 and 32. Followed by Phoenix at 44 and 35. The LA Clippers at 42 and 35 are 5th. And the Golden State Warriors right now are 42 and 38 for the 6th spot. Outside looking in the East, it's the Miami Heat at 42 and 37, followed by the Atlanta Hawks at 41 and 39. And to round out the last two teams in the West who are on the outside looking in right now are the LA Lakers at 41 and 39 and the New Orleans Pelicans, who are also 41 and 39. So, you know what? The last two games matter. It's going to be interesting to see who slips, who gets in there, who sneaks in there. It's going to be really, really interesting. I mean, I think this is the first time in a long time that I'm really, really excited to watch the playoffs. Normally, I just to be honest with you, Walt, I don't really kind of check it out till the finals start. I'm kind of a baseball NFL guy, but now that I'm on here with the podcast with you, I can stay abreast. I got to stay abreast of things.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna leave it there and check it out, and we're gonna chop things up next week on the PR Man, the Coach Talking Ball, and the BallFather podcast. Check out what we'll see what's happened, see what transpires. Something's gonna happen over this next weekend. Somebody's gonna make it. Somebody's gonna get eliminated. Golden State's right there on the cusp. The Nets are right there on the cusp. The Lakers are on the cusp the other way, trying to come up, as are the Pelicans. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens these last two games. Any predictions, any thoughts as we finish up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the way it looks right now is pretty much how it's going to pan out. I think that the Lakers will I don't think they'd drop to a play-in game. I think they'd stay around that 7, 8 spot. I think the Pelicans stay in the playoffs as well. I say it once again. I think the Lakers, the Warriors, Suns, dangerous. The Nuggets, absolutely, but I think those three teams are dangerous, man. And on the East side, it's just going to be a terrific battle to the top, especially when you talk about those top 4 or 5 teams getting after it. I mean, it's going to be unbelievable. And the thing about it is, most of the time when you're watching the playoffs, the NBA playoffs, it's a 7-game series. You know who's going to win.
Right.
It's a lot of teams. It's a lot of teams that have a chance here this time. I mean, Milwaukee Bucks at the cream of the crop. But like I said, I think the Suns can knock them off. And then talking about everybody else, it's just a mixed bag of tricks. Who knows who's going to get there. So, and then you talk about the Sixers. They have that Embiid factor. Who knows? He get into a rhythm. You never know what happens.
What's your stat? The stat that you mentioned earlier. You said, what's KD in his last 21 games? What is he? 20-1?
20-1 in the last 21 games he's played in.
That's a factor going into the playoffs. And then the other thing that you said is worth mentioning is, with the rhythm and the experience and the length and the defensive play and the record and everything having to go through Milwaukee, it's going to be really hard to beat those guys 4 games in a row, in a 4-game series, best out of 4 out of 7. It's going to be hard to beat those guys. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely going to be hard to do for sure.
We're going to leave it there, man. Walt, have a great week. We will check in with you next week. Sorry if I was teasing you about your Sacramento Kings.
Hey, they in there. They in there, man.
They in there. You're right. They in there. It doesn't matter. Listen, we'll reconvene with you next week. Have a great week. We'll talk next week, man.
All right, now. Good seeing you.
All right, big dog. Bye.
Yeah.